Welcome to Now Be You, a podcast and global community for ambitious female entrepreneurs. Here we discuss the ways we can empower you to meet us at the intersection of wellness and daily business practices. I'm your host, Leonora and Rupi, a psychologist, meditation guide, author, entrepreneur, and mentor with over a decade of experience helping thousands of women unlock their full potential. Hello and welcome to Now Be You podcast. Today I have a wonderful, powerful, amazingly vulnerable, and so deeply interesting women that I met here in the Faroe Islands in this amazing festival. And I just was so amazed by your art. So Rupi, before we start conversation, I want to introduce you shortly. I'm sure there is the whole list about you, but just to learn about you, that Rupi Kaur is a poet and a performer who works has touched millions across the globe. Rising from self-published beginnings, her debut collection, Milk and Honey, became an international phenomenon. Followed by The Sun and Her Flowers and Homebody, her works rooted in themes of love, loss, trauma, healing, and femininity. The books have been translated into over 40 languages and sold more than 11 million copies worldwide. Beyond poetry, Rupi is a cultural voice of our times, unapologetically vulnerable, deeply empowering, and devoted to turning her own story into mirror for women everywhere. So here we are together, and I am so honored to have you here on our show. And thank you, Rupi, first of all, to really inspire my soul. I was mesmerized by your poetry. I was mesmerized by the courage and vulnerability you are standing and emanating on the stage. But before starting about your career, I just was watching you as this powerful woman who is traveling, writing, expressing, inspiring. But what is behind that, Rupi, when the stage has closed, when the trips are finishing? What are you doing behind the scenes in order to nourish yourself? You're giving so much. You are emanating so much energy. You're empowering so many women and people at large. What is your secret? What is your story behind the scenes?
I think first, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy that this festival brought us together. It's been such a joy to meet such lovely souls and really connect and fill each other's cups. And to answer your question, I think a lot of what drives me is human connection. I've always felt this desire to share and to connect and just reach out and hold someone's hand. And in a way, my poetry is kind of metaphorically, I think, doing that.
Yes.
This desire to be this is what I'm feeling, and it really hurts and it's really hard to navigate. And so then I write it down to process it, to find answers, and then sharing it and hearing people say, they feel it too, or it touched them in whatever ways it did. It makes me feel really seen as well. And I think we become closer when we realize that so many of the feelings or experiences that we think are unique to us aren't. They're quite universal.
Yeah, and you're connecting people through your poetry. I was just thinking, it's the best spiritual work you can do. To the women who are listening right now, especially women leaders who really don't have a lot of time, but they are as well humans. They have just a lot of responsibilities. And sometimes we don't, as women, busy women, don't have our time for ourselves.
Absolutely.
So in your poetry, basically, you can have a pause for 5 minutes and reconnect with your feelings and know that you are not alone. And that's already a lot. And also you are translating spiritual language, internal language, in such a poetic and artistic way that I was saying, I just keep on having these goddess bombs, it's this resonance that is happening in your bones, in your body, in your soul. And this is where reconnection happens. We are not alone. We are all going through it.
Exactly.
Just keep on going and keep on remembering that you can do it. If you did it, I can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You said this you said about poetry being spiritual, that's exactly kind of how I describe it. I think in the West, it can be seen as like, this is like your work, it's your career. It's given these like writing can be given these very masculine traits.
Yeah.
And I remember reading this book or just reading advice from authors. And some of it can be very, I feel like detached from spirituality. Like if you're a serious writer, you need to get up in the morning and you need to write 500 words a day. That's what, Stephen King does. And it's so like rigid. Yeah. And so for my second book, I did that. With my first book, it was a very spiritual experience, truly. I wasn't thinking about the outcome. I wasn't thinking, I need to write a bestseller. It was like something that I connected with spiritually. And it was a very organic process. The evenings or the mornings I felt called to write, I would arrive and I would write. And then with my second book, there was so much pressure that I almost turned off the spiritual angle of it.
Yes.
And because there were many moments where I didn't feel like writing, but I was like, well, I have to do it. It's my job now. I need to produce another bestseller. I need to do this. And my body began to not like writing. Like every time I went to write, it was like it had this like negative response to it. And since then, I've learned that that's not how I can do this. If this is my spiritual practice. And so I need to respond when it's calling out to me. And I need to really treat it like it's this like loving inner child. If I demand so much of it, if I start writing and I'm like judging it and I'm saying it's not good enough and I'm not good enough, that inner child that does the writing, it hides and it doesn't come out.
It's like, oh, they don't see me, this mind noise voices. And if I'm correct, you was 21 when you published your Honey and Milk first book that was like mind-blowing and just best-selling book for so long. So that was your pure intention where you naturally flow from what you feel.
Exactly.
So talking about that, yes, we become professional through the experiences we do. Yeah. But how you navigate in your life right now by being, first of all, seen, required from you a lot of, expected from you much more than before. And how do you navigate right now being and nourishing your inner child and being so poetic and pure and also having a structure and being professional? What is your recipe right now? Where are you now?
I'm figuring it out.
Yeah.
But the first, I would say 10 years were just kind of a hot mess. So I published Milk and Honey in 2014 and it really blew up 2016. And I mean, since then I have now 4 books. I did like multiple, world tours. I did an Amazon special. And at the end of it, I was just feeling really empty and really burnt out. And so I decided this year to take a year off. I'm very privileged to be able to do so. And I said, I'm going to take a sabbatical. I'm going to tap out. I can't participate in like giving to this machine anymore because the machine will just take and it will take and it will take.
It will never stop.
It will never stop. And so that's what I've been doing this year. I've been feeding who I am as a human being first and not the public figure and not the author. And it's been exciting and terrifying because you're like, what if I never write another word again? But that inner child, that inner voice that wrote Milk and Honey is being fed again and coming back to me. So I'm getting geared up now to enter a season of writing.
As we all know, as strong women, we know that nothing happens from, let's say, easy and place with no challenges. As we know that where the lily is growing from, And it's just looking at your life, your courage, your vulnerability. I would like to go back a little bit in your childhood because the poem you was reading last day in the festival really touched my heart and touched my heart for so many other parents' hearts. You were talking about your childhood, your parents, but actually it touched everyone's hard work for their children's dreams to come true. And I know your childhood and your reality was not easy. So how did you came to the point where you are right now, and how did you notice? When did you notice your talent? Was it an early childhood? Maybe your parents helped you? How did it happen?
Yeah, it wasn't. I never really noticed it as talent. I think art was always my vehicle to express myself. Like I was always feeling so many things. I felt like if I didn't put it somewhere, it was just going to make me sick. So like I found art early. Maybe when I was 5 years old, I started drawing and painting. And that's kind of what I thought that was my passion. And I was like, I want to paint for the rest of my life. And then it was in high school that I found poetry or performing. I really fell in love with poetry through the stage. I went to an event and I saw like young people from my community, from the Punjabi Sikh community, performing, they were like rapping and singing. And I was like mind blown. I was like, this is so cool. And they were expressing themselves, but they were talking about issues that were affecting us at the time. Our parents went through a genocide. A lot of our fathers, mothers are refugees. And back home, our ancestors experienced so much trauma. And I saw these young people talking about these things through art and music. And it changed me. And then I stepped onto a stage, like maybe a month after that first event.
How old were you?
I was probably 16 or 17.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 12th grade, so last year of high school. And again, I didn't think I was talented. It was more so like, I just knew it was what I needed to do. It felt so aligned when I was on stage. And, I was like insecure, shy, introverted, didn't want to be seen. But when I'm on stage, I felt like I could just throw all of that to the side and just be. And I always say when I'm on a stage, I'm the woman of my dreams. Something that I maybe don't give myself permission to be on a regular basis, but something that I'm working towards. Very interesting what you mentioned. So the woman of your dreams, can you describe a little bit? Yeah.
Who is the woman of your dreams?
She is someone who is confident, who expresses without thinking, oh, if I say this and I do this, how are people going to react? She just moves through alignment, and she is big and she's large and she is present. Yeah. And I feel like on stage, I am that, and maybe it's because, you walk onto an empty stage and it's just you. And I feel like you leave all your traumas and all the shit you don't like there on the side of the stage, and
something stays away.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're fully present.
Exactly.
Is that the moment that you're feeling yourself, like really being you?
Yes.
That truly you?
Totally. I think, it's like I just get to function at a higher frequency.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're expanding your potentiality, possibilities, and your freedom to be yourself.
Yeah. And the audience helps. I don't do it alone. I get up there and the audience responds to the poetry. They're speaking back and they're laughing and they're clapping and they're cheering. And then together through that connection, we sort of raise each other's frequency together, and I become bigger and larger.
And they become more charged and amplified. This is how it works.
Exactly.
You give and get. So talking about all this amplification, it sounds very nice when we reach a certain point, but to the people right now who are maybe reaching some dreams and they think that it's so far away, what would be the advice for women who is really potential in your dreams, but she's not yet there and maybe she start doubting about herself? What would be your advice?
I think for me, I know it sounds sometimes so corny, but it really is more of the journey than the destination, because so often we will arrive at the destination and it can feel fleeting. Right. And then suddenly you're in you're thinking, okay, well, what's the next thing? And then the next thing after that. But truly being present in the everyday journey, in the everyday process, for me has been the greatest gift. Like, I remember writing Milk and Honey, that creative process, I was never thinking about the outcome. I was never thinking about the result and the goals or whatever. I was just working through love and passion. Just so fully obsessed with the process and the experience and the way it was filling me that the destination actually never matched up to that experience, the journey. So I think finding ways to like actually enjoy that creative process. Doubts are natural. I think everybody experiences them. I experience them all the time, and I'm still figuring out, okay, how do I work through those doubts, and how do I not hear them? Or hear them, but also say, okay, thank you. I'm going to put you to the side now, and I'm going to keep working.
You know what I'm doing very often, as I'm coming also from a very small village, like very simple family. I needed to climb the mountains to be where I am right now. And also we never stop. We constantly reaching something, and it's beautiful. But the most important thing one day I heard is like, every energy wants to be liberated. So if you see the energy and embrace the energy and love the energy, even it's fear, even it's doubt, it's like a little child who wants to be loved, even it's screaming, And I realized when you said, be present, be in the moment, and just love your fear, love your doubt. So wherever you are right now and you are listening to this podcast, and maybe you are doubting, maybe you are not trusting yourself, just embrace that feeling, and just know, oh, that's a journey, that's a present moment. That's actually a gift for me. And actually I can liberate that energy.
Exactly.
By loving and embracing it.
And I feel really lucky that I get to, like, my work is writing, because no matter what I'm feeling and how awful it is, and, fear I have felt for a long time, I'm like, okay, cool, bring it on. I'm just going to make a poem about you. And so it's like, it really is a great way to process and work through the things you're going through. And I think you mentioned before, we have such busy lives, especially women, we're doing so much. I find that like writing is a life hack that anyone can do. We go through so many things, and we don't have the time to actually process. So we compartmentalize our emotions and our experiences. But writing is actually a way to heal. It's where we go in and sort of work through those emotions and sort of like put them to rest. So in those tough moments, I try to remind myself, this feeling sucks, whatever, I'm just gonna like write through it.
And that's so beautiful. And with your poem, if someone is really having a hard time to feel it and go through it, I would recommend to read your book. One of those. I mean, it's all of them. Before coming to your new book that I didn't mention, I wanted to ask you this about go deeper a little bit into fear. It's like, of course, you remember many, many moments of failure. What was the moment of deepest failure that brought you into highest tops?
It's so funny. When I started writing and performing, I had no fear. And I think it was because I had nothing to lose, There's a beauty of being young, naive, and ignorant. You just sort of like reach for the stars because you don't even know what's possible.
Exactly.
And so I first started feeling fear after my first book. Once, I had suddenly sold millions of books. I had achieved all of these things. And suddenly the fear comes in because I had no idea how that happened. But now I felt the pressure to repeat that success again and again and again. And it's taken me, so long, probably close to 10 years to like still navigate and work through that fear. And I'm realizing perhaps I'll never fully overcome it. And that's not the point. The point is I'm trying to go back to trusting the process and just trusting my inner voice. It's hard and it's a lifelong journey. But this break has helped me a lot, I think. Because when you're just on the go and you're on the hamster wheel, you're not giving yourself enough time to really figure out what it is that you want to do and what it is that you want to write about. But now for this, I'm going to be writing a new book. That book is sort of, like I said, forming inside of me. And there are moments where the fear comes in. I'm like, will anyone relate? Will anyone read this?
Okay. Yeah.
Of course. And I'm like, maybe like 5 people, I don't know. But then I'm like, okay, but pause. When I was writing Milk and Honey, I wasn't worried about that.
Yes.
I was just worried about telling myself the truth. And I think for me, that's the recipe.
Yes.
If I'm telling myself the truth, that's the best I can do.
Yes.
So that's what I'm going to be trying to do with the next book.
It's so powerful what you just mentioned, this purity. When we don't have anything to lose, we go and reach for the stars. And the moment we start almost to compete with ourselves, our past, how successful we became, this is where it starts, the doubt.
Yeah.
I remember my first speech in New York 20 years ago. It was a beautiful venue. Many women were invited. It was my first ever speech after my, let's say, event organizing career. And nobody came.
Oh, wow.
And you know what happened? I decided to have that venue for myself and give the first speech to myself. And I went out of this venue and I was so happy, like I was the most successful woman in the world.
Yes.
And ever since, my success started only from there. It was almost an exam.
Wow. Wow.
And this is, I do believe that, universe, as we are universe, we organize universe from within.
Right.
We vibrating and we are responding just through the outside. It gives us these exams and mirrors for us to look at it and say, how about now?
That's such a powerful story.
I know.
Wow. I don't know if I could have done that. But it's so important. You're right. Like in that moment, it's like a lesson. You get to respond.
Yes.
And so often many of us will see that and be like, nobody wants to hear me.
Yeah.
I'm a failure. And you see it from that perspective. And then the meaning you get from that is I'm not enough. Versus you were like, okay, I'm going to use this space to practice and be loud and big, and you used it and you aced the damn exam and you came out bigger and larger and brighter.
Exactly.
It's so amazing.
This is so amazing. And I sometimes have to remind myself also that purity inside of me that we both started, and we all do that in childhood, in young days. We just have nothing to lose and we go for it. And then we start to doubt. And so that's the maybe unconditional love to yourself. That's what life is asking for us. And just keep on reminding, hey, let's pause and see how deep is your love. Yeah?
I love that. Yeah, I often say, what would my 19-year-old self do? Because she's so fearless and she doesn't give a crap about anything.
Yeah.
And so I often, at difficult moments, what would she do? Okay, let me do that. Yeah.
That's a very nice advice to everyone.
Yeah.
Just go back to your powerful moment in your life when you remember yourself the most powerful.
Exactly.
What you do, and ask her. Maybe you want to go to the future is also good, because maybe we're communicating with our future self, expanded version of ourselves, or the one who was brave and fearless ever. And this is where we connect to that moment.
Exactly.
Sometimes we need to choose a role model and just go to that person and say, what about that frequency? It's not for me to copy the person.
No.
It's just to connect to that frequency and we can go for it. Yeah.
Totally.
And I do believe, Rupi, that I want to call you Rumi. It's incredible. The moment I saw you, I told you. It's like,
I was like, this is the greatest compliment I could ever receive.
So, okay, Rupi Rumi. I know that the last book that I didn't mention is Healing Through Words. And it's a notebook, a workshop book. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yes.
Because we will ask your favorite exercise for the listeners.
Okay.
With us.
Yeah. So in COVID, I first released a Amazon Prime poetry special, and it was like an hour-long special of like me performing. And then after that, I realized so many of my readers and listeners, they enjoy writing. So to feel connected to my audience during COVID, I started to do these Instagram live writing workshops. And I've done writing workshops in the past, but in person, with 20, 30 people, sometimes at local libraries. But I started to do them online. Again, it was like, I wasn't thinking, oh, I want this to go viral or what the goal is. I just felt called.
Yes,
and I'm
exactly.
like, I'm just going to do it. And it's so silly. Like when I do things from that place, suddenly, it just works in a different way, a larger way. I had sometimes 10,000 people, 11,000 people coming, joining for the full hour and writing poetry with me.
Oh, wow.
And I facilitated these for many weeks. But at some point, I'm like, okay, I can't do this forever. My readers are like, more. And so I said, I can't figure out how to do this forever. Maybe one day I'll do some sort of a course online, but I think what I'll do is I'll create a book of writing exercises. And for me, the vision was being the support, creating these exercises that support people to open up and go deep into their vulnerability, whether it is just for their personal meditation and spirituality, or maybe it will be the first draft of a new book for them, or a song, or any sort of like creative expression. And so that was a book that came out in 2022.
Would it be your advice for women who don't have a lot of time but want to relax their mind and get in stillness to write? What would be
I would say my process, my first drafts are always a free write.
Yes.
So whether it's first thing in the morning, I do like to write first thing in the morning because the world hasn't, imprinted and like polluted my mind yet. I would say, don't even have a goal in mind.
Yes.
Just have your cup of coffee, start writing, whether it makes sense or not, whether it's incomplete sentences or thoughts, doesn't matter. Just write. And don't cross things out, don't edit, don't change anything. The point is not for it to make sense. The point is you put your brain aside and you let your subconscious do the work. And what you'll realize, just keep going and going and going until your gut says, okay, I'm done. And there might be, a line in there that you're completely shocked by that then inspires something else. Or you might realize, oh, I didn't know that this thing that I'm writing about that happened last week is still bothering me. That's interesting. Okay, let me work on that. So I would say that's like a exercise that I use often.
Okay, great. That's a great exercise just to get connected with your subconscious and really release everything.
Exactly.
Like a reset, a computer reset. Beautiful. I'm going to do it tomorrow morning.
Okay.
It's my time. And before saying goodbye and really celebrating this half an hour together, I would like to ask you about the impact. I know there were happening so many ripple effects from that story of this pure girl who just created these poems. What is the most impactful story for you?
I think anytime I meet a young woman, 15 years old, 16 years old, and I look into her eyes and she reminds me of me at a time in my life where I felt so hopeless, and she says that she's read something that made her stomach turn and made her believe in herself, I just want to hold that girl and say, like, the entire universe is inside of you and you really can make anything possible. I think that, to me, it doesn't matter if I've heard it 1,000 times or 10,000 times. Each time it moves me and it gives me the energy and the courage to write again and again and again.
Oh, so you empower others and others empower you.
Exactly.
So may we create our reality so that it goes both ways and create abundance and amplifying ripple effects all around of us.
Yes.
Thank you for reminding this to me.
Thank you for reminding me. Thank you.
And
Thank
I hope
you for the
we
work you do.
continue it in Ibiza or wherever in the world we're going to meet.
We'll connect and make more magic.
For sure.
For years to come.
For sure. Have a nice day and enjoy the podcast. Thank you for listening to Now Be You podcast. If you liked our conversation, please subscribe the podcast and join our community where much more authentic conversations to come.